Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. My guest today is Antony Blinken, who is Deputy Secretary of State and Deputy National Security Advisor in the Obama administration. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good to be here, Mark. Thank you.
I want to begin, obviously, with the Russia investigation. Special counsel Robert Mueller is investigating alleged ties between the Trump team and Russia, and it's now been reported maybe Donald Trump himself. How serious do you think this is? Donald Trump has been tweeting all the time that this is a witch hunt, that this is fake news. How real news is it?
Well, it is serious and it is consequential, but in two ways. First, if there's substance to this question of collusion, obviously that's very, very significant. But there may not be. I think the mistake that President Trump and his team made was not putting everything out on the table from day one, all of the contacts, all of the communications. Instead, by trying to hold back and by having it pulled out piece by piece, it's created at least the appearance that they've had something to hide. And again, there may be nothing there, but by creating this appearance, and then possibly by trying to put pressure or convince various officials to stop investigations, that creates a problem. And the irony may be that there's nothing there in substance, but in trying to cover up what little there might have been, or in trying to put pressure on officials to stop the investigation, they've created a problem for themselves that wasn't even there to begin with. All of that said, the real problem is this. So much energy and focus is now on this matter that a lot of other important issues are just not getting the attention that they deserve. So I hope this can be investigated quickly, but thoroughly, that we get to the bottom of it, and wherever the facts go is where we go.
Right. Obviously, there's been all the drama against the firing of the FBI director, James Comey. I mean, what he told a congressional hearing is pretty rare in American political history, essentially telling that the president had pressured him to leave some part of the investigation on former national security advisor to the president, Michael Flynn.
That's right.
I mean, this must have caught your attention to have an FBI director, ex-FBI director, essentially accused of, the president of pressuring him.
Well, it's been dominating the conversation in Washington, certainly. I'm not sure the extent to which it's penetrated around the rest of the country, but in Washington, it is the dominant part of the conversation. And if that's in fact what happened, it would be a serious problem.
Is this impeachment territory?
Look, it's very hard to know, until the investigation is concluded. And look, it could be that President Trump thought, I've just had to fire Mr. Flynn for lying and for not telling the truth to the vice president about his contacts with Russia, and enough's enough. He shouldn't suffer anymore. So it'd be nice if he didn't have anything more to worry about. That could be still the wrong thing to do, because a president should not be influencing an investigation, but there could be a more or less innocent explanation for this. Or it could be that the president was really concerned that Mr. Flynn would reveal things that went to the Trump campaign or President Trump himself. We don't know. That's exactly what Mr. Mueller will try to find out.
But there are things that you have seen while you were still in government at the very end of the Obama administration, and this maybe is not the immediate focus of the news media, but it's what Russia actually did.
Well, that's exactly right. And Mark, you're exactly right, because what really matters here, in many ways, is Russia's attempts to interfere with our election. Their attempts also...
I mean, how serious is that? Because obviously there's a lot of speculation, maybe exaggerated. I mean, from what you've seen, is this really serious and maybe continuing? It's
deadly serious. And in fact, unless something is done about it, it will continue, and it will happen in our next elections. Here's what Russia's trying to do. Here's what Mr. Putin is trying to do.
Because it's him for you.
For us, it's him. This goes to him. He is working overtime to try to create doubt in our institutions and in our leaders, to take away their legitimacy, their credibility, to show that our system is no better than his. And that creates disarray within the United States and even between partners in the West. It also is a message to his own people that, our system's no worse than any other. Everyone lies, everyone cheats, everyone does bad things. That's incredibly dangerous because it really goes to the heart of our democracy. So that's why it's so important both to clear this up, to find out what happened, but also to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
But obviously, there's a suspicion that maybe the Trump White House will not push this very hard because of those alleged ties with Russia. So it's kind of catch-22.
Look, I hope they will, and I think this is not and should never be a partisan issue, Republican, Democrat, anyone else. This is about, honestly, an attack on our democracy. And every American should care about it and be concerned about it. And that's why we have to get to the bottom of it, wherever the facts go. And it's, look, obviously my strong hope that there was no collusion or plotting of that kind. That would really be horrific as a result. But irrespective of that, we have to get to the bottom of these Russian efforts because, you know, we talk about now everything that's happening in the cyber world, and in particular threats to our physical infrastructure from cyber attacks. But these threats to our human infrastructure, that is what we think, what we believe as a result of efforts to manipulate information, that's what Russia is doing. And that is a threat to democracy.
I want to get more broadly, you were at the center of the Obama administration's foreign policy, and we're seeing essentially a rollback of many of the things the Obama administration pursued in just a few months by the Trump administration, the climate deal, trade, immigration, and now the reaching out to Cuba, which was seen as really an achievement by the Obama administration. Do you think it's personal?
I don't think it's personal. I think it's based on conviction or belief. I think it's obviously profoundly misguided from where I sit because I think these achievements that they're rolling back were just that, real achievements. But it comes from a different perspective, a different worldview. We believed in the Obama administration very strongly in win-win outcomes. That is, we could have agreements where everyone succeeded. And that might mean compromising. It might mean not getting 100%, but it was still to the advantage of the United States. I think President Trump and the people around him believe very much in a zero-sum world in which there are winners and there are losers. There can't be two winners. And as a result, if the United States is not getting 100%, it's not worth doing it. I think that's not the way the world works, and that reality will start to bite on all of these things. Rolling back climate is a mistake of historic proportions. It goes not only to our immediate leadership around the world, it literally goes to the health and safety of the planet for generations to come. I think if this holds up, which I don't think it will, because other actors are able to undertake many of the obligations that we took on in the agreement, but if it were to hold up 30 or 40 years from now, our children, our grandchildren would look back and see that this was a historic mistake and one that did terrible damage to the United States and to countries around the world. So I hope it doesn't hold up. But I don't think it's personal. I really do think it's based on policy and on conviction.
Right. We've also seen a kind of a love affair, quote unquote, with Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Donald Trump going there and you know, pushing hard on Iran and even against Qatar in the current crisis. What do you make of this? I mean, there have been deals announced also as well. I mean, is this just trade or is there something deeper there?
No, I think there's an effort at a realignment in the Middle East in which we create and support a coalition of Arab countries. And on one level, there's nothing wrong with that. If this coalition was really focused on stamping out extremism and terrorism,
that's not the case.
That would be the good thing. I think we have different ideas of what's really involved. That's what I think President Trump and the administration see when they're trying to build this alliance, or what they even called an Arab NATO. I don't think that's how the Saudis see it, or the Emiratis. I think they see it as an alliance against Iran, and also one that could be used to drag us into the Sunni-Shia conflict. That's not a place that we should be going.
Right. I want to get back to clearly what must be for you the biggest failure of the Obama administration, Syria. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see changes maybe in this kind of new relation the president is trying to establish with Russia, or you still see no hope at all in Syria?
Mark, I don't see a lot of light because I don't really see a policy. And I would be the first to acknowledge that obviously in our administration, we failed to stop the civil war. And we all have to live with that. And many, many people.
What's your biggest regret? In France, officials have been saying the red line, chemical weapons, was the biggest single mistake by the Obama administration.
I disagree with that. Actually, I think the red line was a success. I think the overall Syria policy clearly was not. But on the red line, we enforced the red line, but we enforced it diplomatically, not militarily. If we had enforced it militarily, we could not have taken out the chemical weapons. If we had actually...
But they're still there, apparently.
Well, we got rid of virtually all, not all, but we got rid of the big stockpiles. Most of the infrastructure was destroyed. The chemical weapons no longer represent a strategic threat to the region. And had we not done the deal that we did, many more weapons would be floating around Syria today in the hands not only of the regime, but of the Islamic State and Nusra and other extremist groups. It was not a perfect deal, but it was better to do that than to actually enforce it militarily because we could not have destroyed the chemical weapons. So we're actually in a better place than we would have been.
But not for Syrians.
No, for Syrians, they're in a terrible place. And it's a failure of the international community, including its leader, the United States, that we weren't able to stop it. But I don't see right now a policy to actually end the civil war. I do see a good policy, the continuation of the Obama policy, to deal with Daesh in Iraq and in Syria. I think we're on a good track there. But we have to deal with the underlying political challenges in Iraq, because even when we defeat Daesh in Mosul, which we will, unless there can be a larger political accommodation, the conditions that led to Daesh's rise will still be there, and we'll get Daesh 2.0. In Syria, we do have to find ways to end the civil war.
Thank you very much, Antony Blinken. That's all we have time for. Thank you for watching this edition of The Interview here on France 24.